Make your next move with American Express Business Platinum. You'll get 5 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. Plus, enjoy access to the American Express Global Lounge Collection. And with the welcome offer of 150,000 points, your business can soar to all new heights. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum. Amex Business Platinum. Built for business by American Express.
Auto insurance can all seem the same until it comes time to use it. So don't get stuck paying more for less coverage. Switch to USAA Auto Insurance and you could start saving money in no time. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply. USAA.
I'm practically alone in the whole universe in thinking what I think about this film.
What is wrong with you?
Sorry, Thea.
Gosh.
Yeah, I thought it was trite and I thought the characters were unbelievable. I thought the cinematography started out good and got worse. I thought Minnie Driver's character in particular wasn't a character. She wasn't a person in it at all. Isabella Rossellini, she was barely a person. I thought Ian Holm was chewing the sceneries in about 3 different accents. I thought Stanley Tucci's accent kept dropping. I thought the filming of the actual ultimate feast and the prep for it in the kitchen, it was way overlit and it was badly choreographed.
Hello. Joining us today remotely, we have Thea.
Hello.
Matt.
Hey.
And as always, Kobi.
Yo.
And we're reviewing Big Night.
Thank you, as always, to the mighty people for the mighty, mighty tunes. And thanks to Ben from Rockwood Audio for his awesome editing skills.
Please do remember to write a review and rate us on Apple Podcasts and anywhere you can do where you listen to the podcast, because it really does help us.
And you can join in the conversation with us on Twitter
at FlixWatcherPod and on Instagram
at Flixwatcher.
Hello film fans, welcome to this episode of Flixwatcher podcast. Joining us remotely we have Thea and Matt. If you would like to say hello and tell the listeners a little bit more about who you are and what you do, please.
Well, hello, Flixwatcher listeners. It's very nice to be here with Helen and Kobi. Matt and I, along with our absent but thriving co-host, Richard, are from a podcast review show. And we do what it says on the tin. We review podcasts. And we are delighted to be discussing film this time, taking a break from podcast to film.
It's always quite nice being on someone else's podcast, isn't it? Because you don't have to do the editing.
Oh, yeah. I love it.
So can you tell us how you started your podcast in the first place and how you choose the films that you choose to review? Because, full disclosure, you chose us alongside How Did This Get Made? I love How Did This Get Made. It's one of my favorite film podcasts or podcasts in general. So it's interesting to see us up against them.
Yeah. So I'll rattle off a bit, Thea, will I, how it started?
Yes, do.
So basically, I was having a kind of a crisis and decided I wanted to go to college and learn about radio, which I'd always loved. And then I've studied radio and realized what a crappy job it is in terms of wages and creativity and all of that kind of stuff. So I thought, and then podcasts were just hitting really, really big. So I was going, yeah, I'm going to be a podcast maker. And so I started making 2 or 3 podcasts and thought that I really needed to have a podcast that I was able to control all of the elements of, because I was doing podcasts for businesses and comedians and all of these people. And I was at their beck and call and at their whim. So I thought it'd be nice to do something self-contained. So I decided I was going to do a podcast review show. And I did this kind of, I don't know what it was, this sort of audio essay about a couple of podcasts. And Richard, our co-host, said, that's shit. That's really, really, really bad. You don't want to be doing that. Here, let me help you present it. And then we presented it for a while, and Thea came along, and it went from strength to strength, so much so that I don't do the other stuff anymore. We just do the podcast review show. But it took a bit of a lift when Thea came along and gave us that, that cosmopolitan swing.
That's how I when I crashed the party, that's what I said. You guys need some cosmopolitan swing. And as for how do we select podcasts to review? We try very hard to cover all different genre and topics. And I like to say the goal is to try and review very small independent podcasts, the one gal production, all the way up to the big ones with all the sponsors that are from Auntie or the big American houses that have a stable of podcasts and producers now. So the fullest spectrum that we can. And what I love is we hear from podcasts directly, mostly through our Twitter account at Pod Review Show, who are really submitting themselves to us, which is very brave, and I appreciate that. So when we can, we find a podcast that we can all agree on to review and do so. And then it's between Richard and Matt and I, what have we been listening to kind of not for homework, and then we recommend them to each other, and that may be a way, because I'm just trying to recall how we found Flixwatcher.
It was you, Thea. I think it was you.
There. See, I set that up beautifully.
So do you keep a tally? Do you know how many podcasts you've reviewed during
You mean,
the time?
Do we have a spreadsheet? Is that what you're asking?
A spreadsheet? Helen, we do. That's
the real reason you joined, wasn't it? You asked Matt and Richard if they had a spreadsheet, and they said no.
Yeah.
And they said, let me tell you what I can do for you. We have reviewed cumulatively 268 podcasts. For a couple of years, we were reviewing 3 podcasts per episode. And it's been a much better show, much more fruitful conversation between the 3 of us when we can review two podcasts. Right. Yeah. And I'll just say, we're coming up to our 100th. So that's very exciting. You have surpassed that long ago. And it's a great feeling, isn't it? To have so much.
It's a lovely feeling.
Work and content. It's
kind of, I don't know what you think, Helen, but getting to 100 was like, not that we expected not to be doing more podcasts, but it's still like, holy shit, we got to 100. Mm-hmm. It's super odd.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great.
We should have got something from the Queen for it.
Yeah,
I agree.
When's that happening?
I'll just bring her up now.
Do.
Well, let's go from reviewing podcasts to reviewing films. Thea, you chose Big Night. Can you tell us, first of all, why you chose it, and then give us a synopsis in 1 minute or less?
Yes, I can. Why did I choose this? I was very happy to see that it was available for viewing and reviewing, and I saw it in the cinema. This is a film I've seen a couple of times. I do like returning to films, so I have done this a couple of times, and every time I think about Big Night, I always think about the first scene in the kitchen. And that scene in the kitchen tells you everything you need to know about the entire film. And it's done so beautifully, so economically. That's one of the first and solid reasons I love this film. What is this film? It's called Big Night. It was released in 1996. It's 24 years ago. And it was directed by Scott Campbell. And I've read that that Stanley Tucci has co-directing credits, although I don't see that on the screen, or maybe I missed that on the screen. It was co-written by. Okay, well then I'm clearly not attentive. It was written by Stanley Tucci and Joseph Tropiano, and it's all about food. But is it? It's about a restaurant. I'll just quote Mark Kermode, who is a film reviewer, and he has always said that Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy is not a spy novel. It's not really about spies. And I don't think that, even though this story about 2 brothers who have immigrated to the United States in the 1950s are in New Jersey and have a failing restaurant and have one last go to make a go of it before they break up, before the restaurant breaks up. It's not really about food, and it's not really about a restaurant. It's about a beautiful relationship between 2 brothers, and it's about heartbreak. So 2 brothers come to the United States. They've had a restaurant that's been alive for a while.
This is going on for more than a minute here, Thea.
Yeah, sorry. Stop me if you've heard too much.
We're trying to.
We need to work out how to like a stopwatch.
We need a timer.
You really do. Yeah. I'm sorry.
It's okay. So, I mean, Matt, you lead us off. So what are your thoughts on Big Night? Have you heard of this film before? And
I
what were your thoughts?
Was unaware of it until Thea recommended it. So shall I launch into what I thought about the movie?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
Did you not?
No, I didn't like it.
What? is wrong with you?
Sorry, Thea. I was like, what are we going to come down to? Engagement later on? I'll tell you, that's not going to be a very high score.
Gosh.
Oh, God, yeah, I thought it was trite and I thought the characters were unbelievable. I thought the cinematography started out good and got worse. I thought Minnie Driver's character in particular wasn't a character. She wasn't a person in it at all. Isabella Rossellini, she was barely a person. I thought Ian Holm was chewing the sceneries in about 3 different accents. I thought Stanley Tucci's accent kept dropping. I thought the filming of the actual ultimate feast and the prep for it in the kitchen, it was way overlit and it was badly choreographed.
Were you a chef, Matt?
No, not at all.
Were you a former chef?
No, not at all.
Okay, fine, go on.
Do you like food, Matt?
Oh, I love food. I love films as well, Thea. I thought, so for example, the first scene when you see Stanley Tucci's character, Minnie Driver's character in the car, it's like the whole thing came screeching to a halt. Like there was nothing going on whatsoever dramatically. All of the dialogue was written words the actors were saying. There was no human beings. Very, very rarely. There was time. Okay, Tony Shalhoub, he's magnetic. He's brilliant. I really, really like Tony Shalhoub. I really loved Monk, the series Monk, and anything he's in, he's just magnetic. I thought he was great, but he was underserved by a poor script. I thought the scene on the beach at the end between the two of them, and then one of them starts to walk away, and then it's hold on a minute, and then they come back and they start talking again, and then the other one walks away and it's hold on a minute, and they have this fight, and it's like, I don't believe any of it. I don't believe you. I don't believe it's just a bing, 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 phony bells ringing all over, left, right, and centre. And I'll tell you another thing, Thea, sorry to go on. I was watching it and I was going, oh no, my God, I'm going to have to tell Thea that I don't like this film and I'm going to have to be really, say the truth about what it is. So I went online and started looking at reviews, and I was delighted to find that I'm practically alone in the whole universe in thinking what I think about this film. So I'm delighted, Thea, that you're not alone in liking it, but I'll stick to my guns. I really didn't like it.
You should, yes. Golly mosh. Wow.
How do I follow that? Netflix keeps trying to recommend this, so I put it on my list as on to watch, and I'd never heard of it before, but since Netflix had been trying to push it on me, I'd read a little bit about it, but still no recognition. So I wanted to like this more than I did, and I think it's got a lot of heart, but I really, really, really struggled with the accents in it. And all the way through, I was just thinking, I just really, really struggled to, and like you say, Stanley Tucci's does drop. And then when it dropped, I thought, oh, he only puts on the Italian accent like when he's with his brother or when he's in the restaurant for fun. And he does actually speak with an American accent. And then it grows up again. So the accents were distracting for me. And I think I would have liked to have seen a bit more food in it, I think, because I really enjoy the scenes where they, when they were cooking together, when they were serving, and I really, really, really love the party. I love how they just basically, have this massive orgasm over the food, and they're just like, I can never eat any food again. And I really like that. But yeah, I struggled with the accents. And I think that, for me, just made it a little bit too distracting, especially Ian Holm. I've never heard Ian Holm do an Italian accent, and I don't know who his accent coach was, but it was just very strange, and I couldn't work out why he was cast as this character who'd basically been, the first guy to come over and, start things, when it was Ian Holm. So it's a weird casting thing for me that distracted from my overall enjoyment.
I really enjoyed this. I really, really enjoyed it, and I like Thea said, I really enjoyed it from the first scene where they're cooking together, and you have the brotherly kind of squabble played out in how does this taste? It's fine, and then another brother puts more salt in it because this is how I do it. So as a character piece, I think it was really interesting, and in terms of how they put food on in a restaurant, I think it's probably one of the most accurate representations of. I'm not doing a chef. I worked in many restaurants. I worked as a waiting staff, and just how things go on behind the scenes. It seemed like a a plausible way of doing things. Whereas I love Chef, but some of that is just long camera shots over cheese and ham. All the prep stuff that goes into the making it, and Chef's being precious about things was all really accurate. I agree with Matt a bit on the Isabella Rossellini and everyone else, and Helen on Ian Holm and Minnie Driver. But I was still super happy to see those guys on the screen. I was just like, oh, this is cool. I'm happy here. I really enjoy this. And I felt really tense during the actual big night, thinking, is Primo going to turn up? I was like, really like, fuck, I hope it. I really was invested. I really wanted it to work for them, which of course ultimately it just wasn't. So it does show that I was in there in some way, shape, or form, and was vying for them, and hoping that they would succeed after this. Even though I didn't think one night, even if Louis Prima did turn up, was going to make all their experiences, the better. Yeah, the beach scene was a bit nonsense. But apart from that, yeah, I really enjoyed it. This is the kind of indie film that I like, where someone's got an idea, they want to put something out there, and they get a few people together, and you can tell it's not exactly big budget, but they've got an idea, they've made it work, and it's got like a thrust and a spirit to it, which is what I take away from it. It's the spirit of it. Thea.
Yeah, I like the way it looks. I always like the detail set designers give. That's always something I find really enjoyable to explore, the background of a film. And the kitchen just looks great, and the restaurant is perfectly set dressed, and Isabella Rossellini is just so beautiful to look at. And I think that Stanley Tucci's eyes are beautiful to look at, and not just because they're pretty, but because he and Tony Shalhoub, the way all the dialogue they don't say to each other, these brothers who've been together, they're so close. But of course, the iconic scene at the end where they're sitting next to each other sharing an omelet, and for a brief moment they're eating with one hand and have their arms draped over the shoulder of the other, which I'm sure Matt would find just over the top melodramatic and inappropriate.
No, I like that scene.
Oh, he liked that bit.
At the end.
Yeah, I found it very warm, and the whole thing is really about a relationship between, signifying the end. The whole thing about the relationship of the brothers and the tensions between them, and yes, much is periphery, and the big night is the big night, and it could have ended in the kitchen without the beach. It could have ended in the kitchen without the beach. Yeah. But am I going to watch it again? Go ahead and ask me. Yeah, I'm going to watch it again sometime. A couple of years from now, I'll watch Big Night again.
The scores. You get to the scores. We still need to talk about the film a bit more.
Sorry.
So what do you think? I mean,
I was going to say, I was really sold on the era. I thought I definitely got lost in that, and I almost, for me, felt like it could have been made in the 50s. They really got that down. I mean, there was so much smoking that I was just, oh my God, they just smoked all the time. Like, you go to your bank and you get a cigarette, and so the costumes and the set and everything, I really got behind. But also, it's when we watch these films and we recognise actors from later on. So Lev Shriver's in there as well, and Mr. X J-Lo as well.
Yeah,
Mark
a
Anthony.
very young, skinny little Mr. X J-Lo, and Alison Janney is in it as well.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say Alison Janney. Ali Janney.
She's good. And who did Lev Schreiber play in it?
So he's like at the rival restaurant.
Oh,
Ian Holm's restaurant.
Yeah, okay.
You see him. Does he say any words?
I think he does. I think he says good evening or welcomes him in or something, doesn't he? Yeah.
And Ian Holm, he did play an Italian. He was in Chariots of Fire as Mr. Musabini, who was the coach, the coach privately
so it's
engaged.
Not precedent, is what he's saying.
Yeah. I don't think the accent was as what's the word, over seasoned as it was maybe in this film.
I thought that when he came on screen, I thought, this is what it is. It's a broad comedy. Because his first scene was so hammy and broad comedically. I thought that's where the film was going, and why did it take so long to get there? And then it kind of swerved back away from it. I thought he was very odd. I couldn't make out what his accent was supposed to be at all.
I didn't think he was Italian.
No.
To be honest, I didn't think about it.
I think he was trying his character was trying really hard to be American and to have an American sensibility, and he was using American vernacular, and oftentimes not as a native well, who's a native? Sorry, I'm not going there. A native-born person, maybe, but with English as a second language, and he's just kind of barking it out in an attempt to fit in. 1950s New Jersey shoreline.
I think this is where, if I'm kind of imbued by the whole spirit of the film, of a film or a story, then accents I don't tend to notice bad accents. Don't tend to notice bad wigs. Because that's if I'm engaged in it, which I clearly was by this, then I'll let it fly because I don't necessarily think about that. It doesn't take me out of the picture. I don't really recognise Ian Holm from many things, so for me it wasn't like a
Lord of the Rings. Oh no, you don't like Lord of the Rings. No,
see, I know he's the Hobbit, but I mean, what I mean is he's not like if it was Brad Pitt in that character, oh, that's Brad Pitt. But for me, he's a character actor, isn't he?
Yeah.
More than others. So it was Isabella Rossellini and Minnie Driver, who I don't think we see enough of still. She stopped acting. It was those two that kind of like, what are they doing here? Exact kind of thing.
Yeah. I was really looking forward to from the first few scenes. I thought I agree with everybody. The production design is lovely. The interiors and all of the set dressing and costumes and all of that kind of stuff. And I was like, it's like rubbing my hands together. Oh, great, this is going to be great. And it didn't quite get there for me, Thea. I'm sorry.
It's all right, Ben.
I love how people apologise to people for the films they don't like.
I
don't take it personally.
I think also, I didn't buy the romance between Minnie Driver and Stanley Tucci either.
Were you supposed to though?
Well, I mean, you've got to be slightly invested in it, else you don't care about the outcome. I don't know whether you're meant to care about it, but I struggle with age gaps in relationships on films anyway, and this is just kind of jarring with me because there's a good 10 years between them in real life, and it kind of felt a lot older in the film. And I don't know.
And this is a young Tooch, isn't it?
Yeah.
As far as we know him now, yeah. I
guess so. I don't know. I find him really hard to age, with or without hair. And I really like him. He had a sort of biggish part towards the end of ER, which I've been watching recently. So, like, I've got his role of that in my head when I was watching this as well, without hair. So it's kind of like before with hair and then out with hair. But I really like him. But I didn't buy the romance, and then I don't know. I thought it was a shame that Isabella Rossellini was only really there to kind of break them up, because I just think she's really, really interesting and probably not really given much chance to show her range and how awesome she is.
Yeah, I think that's fair with the female characters. I think it's great that they're there, but I think they could have had a better arc or contribution, because Minnie Driver's character, she's waiting for this guy to potentially propose to her, and then she turns up at his big night and helps out and does a lot of the work and gets things sorted whilst he's floundering around town. And it's so I didn't buy that they were. I bought them as a couple, but I didn't think they were going to last in any way, shape, or form. So as soon as they're on screen, I was like, well, that's not. I don't need to worry about this bit. This is not going to be a thing that I need to worry about. And I thought it was a bit of a weird turn where he's having an affair with Isabella Rossellini's character. So I don't think that side of things was turned. I think that could have been left out of the story. They could have been in there, but the romance side I don't think needed to be there. Needs to be forced. But I did like Tony Shalhoub and Alison Janney. I like that kind of shyness that still happens of people who are single and potentially lonely, and it's good to see that kind of appear on screen when it does do.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's the best thing about the film, that relationship between the two of them. When he's in a shop and he steps into the refrigerated section, that's really, really good. And there's a real magnetism between the two of them that's very believable. And I think it's, for me, it's one of the only believable things about it. I think the Isabella Rossellini character and the Ian Holm characters, they're just devices. They're not people. They're just, this happened because then that happened, and then because this happened, and then that will get us to that place in the plot. I think that's all they're there for. And Minnie Driver, what is she? She's a beautiful woman in a dress. That's pretty much all she is. She doesn't have any backstory. She doesn't have any. She doesn't have anything to say for herself, in particular, apart from what is she? Who is she? Thea, tell me, help me.
Well, I'll tell you, Matthew.
Still Matthew.
It's if we let's use food as a metaphor. I stand by my belief and my attraction to this movie that the key relationship is the brothers, and the love of the affair of love is between the brothers, and the breakup is the brothers, and perhaps these other relationships and characters who some are a bit more archetypal and simplistic. Everything's just a garnish, Matt, to the main course.
Okay, all right.
The brothers,
food. Okay,
and that's it. And in this case, it's okay for me. I'm happy to. It doesn't upset me. Maybe in another film where there are very superficial, simplistic things happening that would irritate me. I just think this is so lovely, and I think the two brothers together are beautiful. And Kobi, like you've said, the kitchen scenes, the restaurant scenes are, and Helen, the dinner scene. It's just, I love it. I love all of that, and everything you say, and I totally support your right to believe and say it, does not dampen my ardor for this. And I don't think you're wrong. I think you need to see the film again, maybe.
No way. Can I just say something? Sorry, can I just say something about food? And you're talking about the food being a metaphor. Well, why isn't it photographed better? Why isn't the actual food photographed better? Your man who's the Ken Kelch is the cinematographer. Done a lot of work with Abel Ferreira. He's no spring chicken. He knows what he's doing. But the kitchen bits where they're preparing the food and when they're serving the food for the feast, it's just blazing in light, and it looks like they've just got one lens. They've only got a 35mm lens walking around the place. There's no nice close-ups. They don't pull away half of the actors and then get a nice close-up of the food being served. I wasn't hungry watching it, and anything halfway decent that's got food on it on the screen, I'm going, oh yeah, wouldn't mind a bite of that. But if it's going to act as a central metaphor or conceit in the film, it should have been filmed better. That's what I think. What do you, Helen and Kobi, what do you think about the way it was shot, or the way it was photographed? Yeah,
I don't remember being offended by the way the food was shot. I the bits with food in, were my favourite bits. And as I've said, I've really enjoyed the meal. But what are we thinking? Which bits particular, like when he's making the omelette, or when they're throwing the aubergines around the floor?
Yeah,
I was a bit like, oh, those poor aubergines.
Yeah, and what's it? Stanley Tucci's knife skills weren't really up to much, were they? That was another thing.
I thought they're quite good.
Did you really?
I just think you've been watching too much contemporary cookery shows there, Matt.
Yeah.
No, I was just looking at it going, I could do better than that.
Stanley Tucci is someone who's a workman in the kitchen. He's there. He can help out and do things.
Yeah,
but he's
not a chef yet.
He was making martinis in lockdown. Did everyone see him on Instagram? He's got a cookbook in real life.
Oh, okay. Right.
So what do we think about? Okay, this is before we get to the scores. This is like clearly like indie film all over it. It's actor gets some friends together, has a script. Let's do some things to maybe just see what it turns out like. Well, how does that kind of conceit work for you guys? And what are your favorite examples of indie films of this kind of manner?
Well, Thea, do you mind? Thea,
go on.
I thought at certain points in the film that they were going for this kind of loose John Cassavetes type of style. Then, so if you want someone who gets a bit of money and goes off and do a film, then that's John Cassavetes is my favourite for all of that. He would go and he'd do something like The Dirty Dozen or Black Friday at a Hollywood part, and he'd ring up his mates Peter Falk and what's the other name of the other guy, and he'd be like, "Oh, I got 50 grand. Come on, let's go and make a movie." So and he made some fantastic films. So I don't think it compares that well to them. I wouldn't begrudge anybody making a film. And this is the thing about being mean about films, is like there's so much goes into them and so much love and dedication and craft and time and effort that I feel really bad dissing them. So I don't want to really diss them. But Thea, what about you?
Well, I was thinking about independent films of my life that I liked, that I saw, that I can recall. And the first film on my list is a film called After Hours with Griffin Dunne. It was 1985, and it was so clever and indie, but actually it was directed by Martin Scorsese, so I didn't recall that terribly correctly. But the very first independent film that has lodged in my brain was Eraserhead, and I was very young. I was too young, and I saw it at a midnight show, and it screwed me up for a little while. I know I had nightmares. I loved Bottle Rocket when I saw it, and I still love Swingers, Jon Favreau's Swingers. Yeah. What about you?
I think Swingers was my kind of touch point in terms of films from someone I didn't know, but you could tell they were trying to put a thing together. And I love how Jon Favreau's career has kind of taken off since then. You know, I didn't like The Lion King particularly, but I've loved his smaller films like Chef, and I loved his bigger films like Iron Man and, you know, the other Disney films he's been involved in. So it's, you know, these things do work. And Swingers is one of my favourite films ever, and it needs a rewatch for me.
Have you?
And then you have things like
just about Swingers. Have you ever watched the director's commentary on
no.
Back when we had DVD? Jon Favreau and his co-star, I don't know why I'm blanking on Vince Vaughn. One of their director's commentary track, they use a telestrator, like sports commentators do, with the orange marker. And so they're drawing on the screen. Right. So you're listening to them say, you know, watch how we shot this. And then this guy's doing this kind of stage left. And then they circle the guy's face and they do arrows everywhere. And it's all quite lighthearted. And it's serious too. They're talking about their work, but it's very amusing. So if you're planning on watching it, maybe try a DVD, go old school.
Yeah, I'll try. I'll definitely do that. What about yourself, Helen? Indie films? I imagine you're going to pull out Peter Jackson here.
Yeah, I mean, I guess...
Sorry, just foisted bad taste on you.
Yeah, I think I've reached a certain point where mainstream cinema wasn't really doing it for me, and I consumed basically American indie as like my main form. I can't remember what kind of the first one would be. I mean, all of the films you've mentioned, I haven't seen After Hours, but yeah, Swingers I remember seeing. Obviously Wes Anderson. Yeah, the earlier Peter Jackson ones are completely different to what he's doing now. But even more recently, like there was a film about maybe 2 years ago called The Rider, which was incredible, that I really loved. And I think that's what I'd probably say is independent cinema now. And then just yesterday I went to the cinema for the first time since lockdown and saw Baby Teeth, which I guess I'd call that an independent cinema as well. So for me, that's like my preference. And there's just so many films that I can't think of one in particular, and I can't pinpoint the first one that I saw. I wish I could.
I think I think I was thinking Swingers when I wrote that, and also for me it kind of screams of the we want to do a thing and no one else is giving us the money to do it. Let's do it ourselves, kind of indie, rather than like with Chef and Jon Favreau, where he just kind of went, let's not. I just want to do my own thing for a bit. I've got all the money I need, but I just want to do my own thing and let's carry on.
Well, apparently, just on that, Stanley Tucci wrote it because he wanted a good part to play. So he was like, basically, I'm not being offered it. So it's interesting when you find that these projects by actors turn writers / directors end up going, well, these are the roles that I want to be doing. Just no one's offering them me. I'll just do it myself.
And that's what I mean. I think it had that kind of written on its sleeve, like wearing its heart on its sleeve, like I want to have this kind of role. Let me do this. Should we head to the scores, guys?
Let's.
If there's one TV show that is going to make the whole of the UK feel that little bit better about what's going on in the world at the moment, then it has to be the Great British Bake Off, which has returned to our screens. And if you want to really understand why the dough didn't rise or why the cookie crumbled, then you'll want to hear the Bake Down podcast, where my two co-hosts, former contestants Jane Beadle and Howard Middleton, who have been there and done it in the most famous baking tent of all, dissect each and every episode of the new 2020 series. Search the Bake Down wherever you get your podcasts, and you'll be sure to find us.
Waddingham here. Have you seen the fabulous new Sun Princess? World-class entertainment, exceptional dining, and the greatest pizza ever. It's
Don't miss our Come Aboard sale with up to 40% off and free room upgrades. Visit princess.com or call your travel advisor to book. Princess Cruises. Terms and restrictions apply. Offer ends 2/28/25. Ships at Bermudan and British Registry.
Head over to the Flixwatcher scores. All of the Flixwatcher scores are out of 5. You may have decimal places if you wish, and we will start with you, Thea, please, with your recommendability for Big Night.
I recommend it to everyone, including myself. So I'm going to give it a 5.
Okay. I'm sorry about this, Thea, but
Matt's limbering up here.
Yeah, no, sorry. I'm not. I can only be honest. I wouldn't recommend this to anybody that I know. So I wouldn't. I honestly wouldn't. I wouldn't.
That's okay.
Can you
man.
recommend me a film? Yeah. So I'm going to give it a 0 there. Sorry.
Ooh. I was not expecting that.
I know. I can't anyway.
I mean, I genuinely thought going into this record, this is going to get quite a high score, but it's already. Well, let's see how it plays out, Helen.
It's so funny. It's normally me going, I didn't like this film, and giving it a low mark, and everyone else just being like, It's a funny one. I really wanted to like this more than I did, because I can really see that it's genuinely someone trying to bring a passion project to life, and there's so much kind of, you feel sort of the love that's gone into it, but at the same time the accents for me just don't work, and it, especially with the Ian Holm thing, because it's like, well, is he meant to be bringing the comedy because everything else is so serious, and it's a little bit unbalanced, and it's 1 hour 49. It could be a bit shorter for the story. So I think if you're kind of curious about it, then you should definitely check it out, but it's not really one that I would say, you should definitely see this ahead of something else. So I'm going to give it 3.5.
I'm going to go for 4.5 here. I really enjoyed it. It's the kind of film I could, lounge around and watch all day. I'm quite disappointed. This is the first time I've even heard of it. But I'm glad I did manage to get around to watching it. And it loses 0.5 because people don't like indie films, and they go and see things like Cowboys versus Aliens when there's better films out there to watch. So yeah, this is one thing I love about Netflix and love about doing this podcast, is that people bring films that I didn't know existed on there. So thank you very much for doing so. Repeat viewing score, Matt. I can sense where this might be going.
Right.
Sorry, Thea.
Thea first.
No, give it to Matt. Let it rip, Matt.
No.
Can't mess with the order. It's like the Zen.
Of course, full respect. Repeat viewing. I've been very adamant, and I'm not going to change now. Definitely a 5 for repeat viewing. I want to see it again. I want to see more of the nuance between the brothers, and I'm going to look at all the clothes again that everybody's wearing.
Oh,
Matt didn't even want to watch it the first time.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it, Helen. I can't. What does one? If I say it's a 1 repeat viewing, what does that mean? It's a lie. I'm lying to the posterity. I don't want to see it again. So it's going to be another 0. I'm very, very sorry.
Was it really that bad? Because I've seen films where I was just literally laughable, and I don't know. Was it that scale of horrific for you?
I did not want to continue watching it, and would not have continued watching it if it wasn't for this podcast.
Dr. Seuss. I did not want to watch that film.
Yeah, there was many times I really wanted to switch it off, I'm afraid. So yeah. Ooh. Anyway, I'm in the minority. I'm happy to say.
Helen.
Yeah, so I'm very unlikely to watch this one again. I think I got everything that I wanted out of it, so I'm going to go for 1.
Yeah, I think I'm not going to watch it that many times. I'm glad I watched it the first time. But if someone said, I want to watch Big Night, I've not seen it before, I'd say, yeah, if I've got the time, I'll watch it with you. It's fine. So that gives us a 2, I think, 0.1.
That's my fault. I'm sorry, guys.
It's not your... I think recommendability was higher, generally, than 0. Some films just don't want
click.
to repeat viewing.
Yep.
Small screen score. There.
Yeah, I've wavered a bit. I wonder, have I been influenced by this discussion? But I think a 3. Although if it was announced that there would be a showing in a cinema, I'd go. I'd like to see it on the big screen. I'd like to see all the actors and again the sets and everything. So maybe a 3.5 for small screen.
Matt?
Well, this is, there's some really nice photography in it. So I think it would be a better experience watched on the big screen. But that ironically means that it gets a low small screen score, but I'll still... Is that right? Am I right? It doesn't...
That's right.
Yeah,
This podcast is all about the Netflix experience.
Exactly, yeah. So the only thing that might save it is a communal big screen experience. So I'll give it I don't know. I'm going to give it a 3.
Helen?
I don't think there's anything that would sticks out to me for watching this on the cinema. It's kind of a strange film for me in that it kind of feels very, very well suited to be watched on Netflix, and I don't know what that is about it. But I think it's perfect viewed, on your TV. So I'm going to give it a 5.
Yeah, I'm going to go for a 5 as well. Just going back to Swingers, I would love to see Swingers in the Prince Charles with the people who live the film. If this has been Prince Charles Cinema, sorry, Thea and Matt, I don't know if you're aware of it, but Prince Charles Cinema is like a small indie theatre in cinema in the central London.
I know it well.
And yeah, the prices are low.
I love it.
And they they show films that people know, love and like, from True Romance to Gremlins and Die Hard, just to name films I've seen there. And they're all great to see with other people. But I don't think I'd go to see this at the cinema. And I don't think it looks that... like Helen said, I think it works well on the Netflix ecosystem. So 5 for me. Engagement score. There.
I just think I'm going to say something, then Matt's going to say something, and we are not pitted against each other here. I was engaged. I think I'm all the things that I have given high scores for still apply to this, that it is the story between the two brothers and the set that is the kitchen and the set that is the restaurant, and everything happens in the back of the house and the front of the house. And the back of the house of relationships and the front of the house of relationships, the public face of things, makes it for me a very engaging film. So yeah, 5. Why not 5?
What we have sometimes is defensive scoring. I don't think you're doing that, but
I was going to recommend that you do that, Thea. You'd want to, yeah.
To block you out, no.
Engagement score, Matt.
Yeah. So engagement score for me. I can't give it anything. Seeing as I was gnawing at the bars of my cage watching this thing, trying to get out of watching it. So I can't give it anything. I have to give it I'm sorry. I have to give... You know what it reminds me of, actually, while we're talking about it, is it reminds me of Cinema Paradiso, which is one of those films that everybody was raving about, and it's so lovely, and then you watch it with a cold eye and you're going, oh my God, that's some corny trite shit. So that's how I feel about this. So
that's Tree of Life for me.
Tree of Life, okay, yeah, well, you know what I mean, it's something's praised and has a real place in people's hearts. And then I look at it and go, what's wrong with me?
Oh, so you're doubting yourself here more than the film.
I don't know.
How does that make you feel, Thea? Okay, at least you're doubting yourself, not the quality of the movie.
Yeah, but I'll go another 10 rounds with it, no problem, and I explain why I didn't like it. So yeah, I don't know. 0 engagement.
Helen.
So I don't know whether you'd be pleased to know or disappointed to know that your scores are not the lowest we've had from anyone for a film, Matt. So okay. You're not the lowest for a film from a guest. Good. So you've not knocked that record or become joint lowest.
Great, because I wasn't trying to.
So it's funny. I enjoyed Cinema Paradiso. I thought it was great when I saw it. But I know what you mean. Sometimes you watch a film and it's just why am I watching this? It's not what I want to watch. It doesn't doesn't agree with me. Actually, interesting, this film, I was thinking about, what does this film remind me of? This film reminds me a little bit of Mystic Pizza, a film about kind of like relationships, sisters, romance, and then there's kind of like a food setting in there. So that's what this film reminded me. I forgot to say it earlier. An hour and 49, it did feel like a bit of a drag for me. And I'm going to say it again, I just couldn't get over the accents, and I wanted to get to the big night a lot quicker than it arrived, and I felt leading up to that point probably could have been a little bit slicker. So a 3 for engagement from me.
I'm going to go for 5. I didn't know what was happening. I was looking forward to it. I was, like I said at the start, I was really kind of rooting for this big night to happen. Was Louis Prima going to turn up? I didn't think he was going to, but also, why wouldn't he turn up? And that kept me going all the way through to the beach bit at least. But then I kind of, that making an omelette scene. I like these kind of one shots that they did at the start and at the end, which kind of bookend the film. And there's like really nice, subtle kind of camera play at the end. But it got me all the way through right to the final moment. So I was engaged. That gives us an overall score of 3.16250. Let's head to Twitter. So guys, yes, do follow us on Twitter. We are at FlixWatcherPod. And the main reason to listen out for us is because when we are about to record, we put a shout out via Twitter saying something like this: we're reviewing Big Night with Thea and Matt from Pod Review Show. Have you seen it? Tell us your thoughts and your score out of 5 stars for an on-air shout out on Flixwatcher. So we had a couple of responses. Oh, there's a few responses. Thea, do you want to lead us with whichever one you want to take us out with?
Let's see. Greek Elite Media said, I watched this movie last year for the first time for my hashtag 365 movie challenge, and it instantly became one of my all-time favorites. The insanely talented cast is almost overshadowed by the, quote, cooking porn featured here. I only wish more people knew about this movie. Mitch, 5 stars.
Well, that's why we have this podcast. Matt?
Eric Thomas at ET Weekend Lights says, I have seen it, and now every time I make a risotto, I think of that show. Thank you, Eric.
We did ask for a star rating.
He didn't.
He came back.
Yeah.
Oh, did he? Oh, I beg your pardon. What did he give us?
So he came back. He says, sorry, I give it 4 out of 5 and now need to see it again.
Ah, that's nice.
Helen?
So the next one is from Sam Clements. Such a great film. 5 stars.
And then, Thea, do you want to say the last one?
Very good. Tommy James, 5 stars. Mamma mia.
Well, thank you very much, Matt and Thea, for joining us, and obviously also for reviewing us for the podcast review show. Can you tell everyone where we can find your podcast and say goodbye to everyone listening?
Well, first of all, thank you both so much for having us, and thanks for giving us such a good opportunity to get out of our own review heads for something different. And everyone can find us on Twitter at Pod Review Show, and you can listen to our podcast anywhere you find podcasts.
Well, wherever you listen to this, go to their show. That's probably the easiest way, isn't it?
That's it, exactly, yeah. The Podcast Review Show. It's been great fun, guys. Thank you very, very much for having us.
No problems at all. Thank you for joining us. And you should do more, both of you should do more film reviews, but for maybe different films.
Okay.
Thanks so much for coming on. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Bye.
Enjoyed this episode of Flixwatcher Podcast? Why not leave us a 5-star review on iTunes? You can also follow us at FlixWatcherPod on Twitter, and we're at FlixWatcher on Instagram. Thanks as always to the mighty people for their mighty, mighty tunes, and Ben from Rockwood Audio for his awesome editing skills. If you're looking to get your podcast edited as sweet as this, get in touch with Ben, and that's Rockwood, ROKK Wood Audio. Tell them Flixwatcher sent you.
You just heard a Stripped Media production.
These are violent criminals, so they're not going to go down easy.
ABC Tuesdays.
Let's get this done.
The Rookie is back.
We have 2 new rookies starting today.
Howdy.
Being a cop is stressful 24/7.
Every year on the job is different.
And training day.
We have a serial killer at large.
Never ends.
We need an ambulance!
The Rookie. All new Tuesdays on ABC and stream on Hulu.